Hi, gang. Welcome back to the Spilling the Tea Leaves podcast with Rachel and Michelle. We are on episode 7. I lied last time and said that it was episode 7, but I was super wrong. So sorry. This episode 7. Welcome to episode 7. We're going to be talking today about the number 7 and counting and math and connecting with our guides. How do you connect? If you're a long-time listener, you know that Michelle works a lot with crystals and Reiki. That is one of the things that she does to connect as an animal intuitive. That's my main inroad to the spiritual realm. However, we're going to be talking today about other ways that both Michelle and I connect and different things that we do when those other avenues are sometimes exhausted or just aren't there for us, or we need a little bit more, or if my cats are acting up and I don't want to talk to them. That's another challenge you can have as a witch with familiars. So it's all about connection today. And then the other aspect of spiritual connection is, how do you know it's actually a connection and not just a little weirdo egotistical voice in your brain or a coincidence? Like, oh, that license plate has 3 3s on it. Well, so what? How do we, as spiritual beings, know that that's actually real? It's a fine line to walk. Michelle, what do you think?
I mean, some people might speculate that we're crazy, and that's okay. I do think that we have a lot of ways to connect, and we have a lot of things at our disposal, and hopefully we can clarify a little bit about what is genuine, which I believe 99.9% of all things that we see or tend to see patterns in, like repeated numbers and angel numbers, which we'll get into a little more, is general messages that are coming to us from source, whatever you want to call source, God, Jehovah, Allah, the goddess, whatever your source name is. And I feel like my baseline is this message, or the message that I am receiving coming from, is being filtered through fear or through love. So
okay. Hang on, I'm actually going to write that down. That's actually
yeah. So a lot of the times when we see repeating numbers, well, why don't we let's start with our with their tool. So do you want to start talking about repeating numbers first, or angel numbers that they're popularly called?
And it doesn't have to be some sort of magical. I mean, by all means, if you win the lottery with repeating numbers, rock and roll, spirit, source, higher self, man, like tap into that intuition. But and for me, yes, and then let us know. Tapping into angel numbers for me was kind of, it actually started out as an exercise, not in looking for answers, but in just being playful and connecting. So I find that, especially if I'm not yet fully confident that it is a thing, right? Like we talked earlier about, is this actually a coincidence? Is this actually spirit and I connecting? For me, with angel numbers or repeating numbers or sacred geometry, it was just a playful little wave from the universe, and like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm seeing another license plate with 5 8s on it. When I used to live in the place where Michelle and I were together, the license plates were often just 6 digits in a row, 0 0 0 0 0. And there was a period of time after I got kind of playful with it and let it in, where I would just keep seeing these license plates, 1 1 1 1 1, and it was light, it was easy, it was playful. I didn't put too much behind it. I just let it be a really sweet, innocent kind of connection, and that, approaching it from that place instead of like, if I see this number, I know it's going to mean this. That made it too heavy. That didn't allow me to play with it in the same way that if I just sort of took it as a cute little wink from
Yeah.
source, from my higher self. Again, whatever it is, whatever name we're giving it. And the playfulness is what helped me dive in that way. Has it been the same for you, or did you find that it was actually easier to get in on a, I don't know, more serious?
For me, well, the way I started noticing numbers was actually a few years ago when the numbers, and brace yourself because Rachel and I had a long conversation about this particular number, was 511. And 511 is actually my birthday. So it was, and I still see it on a daily basis. I see 511 on a daily basis. And what I started off was a coincidence. Like, we checked into room 511. My receipt at the bakery was $5.11. The temporary number when I went back to the States for a little bit was, it was like 305, 511, 5512 or some, sorry, don't call that number. I don't know whose number that is. But it was really weird. Like, it was just like this coincidence. Like, why is this number everywhere? And I wasn't familiar with angel numbers or numbers connected with messages at that point. So it kind of started freaking me out a little bit. And I told my mom, I'm like, Mom, I keep seeing my 511 absolutely everywhere. So it wasn't until I started researching it a little more and the term angel numbers came to light, right? So I'm like, oh, so there has to be a message. The message for 511, by the way, for those of you that are interested in angel numbers or repeating numbers, if you look online, if you Google meaning of and insert your number, they don't always have to be repeating. Yes, we all want the 1111 and the 22, 22, 33, 33, 80. It's not always like that. Sometimes there are a series of random numbers that keep repeating in your life. Just Google it, and sometimes the message will connect to what you're going through in your life, whether it be there are changes coming, whether it be you need more love or self-care, whether it be that you need to pay attention to other messages. Like, it'll be clear for you. But it kind of opened the way to being more mindful of what I was seeing. So now I pay attention to the numbers. Like, I just don't kind of put them aside. Or if the license plates here are crazy, because it is a constant influx of 8888, 5555. I found one last night that was 51115.
Of course you
So
did.
forwards and backwards, it's the same thing. Another phone number, another number that I keep seeing is 344. And actually, I haven't looked that up one. And I know somebody like really a long time ago had a phone number that started with 344. Anyway, yeah, it gives you the opportunity. It's a very soft landing. It's like a soft way to play.
Yeah.
It's a soft way to see messages where you are not making an active connection in your head. So it's a nice way to just kind of get into it, see what they're saying. And if you see a lot of repeating numbers, sometimes it's the universe's way of saying, hey, we see you, you're supported, the universe has your back, you're on the right track, keep doing what you're doing. And it's just a nice reminder, especially when you're not feeling at your best, or you're not feeling 100%, or you feel like you might be doing something that you're not supposed to be doing, or not supposed to be doing, but you're not on the right track. It's like a nice reminder for the universe that you're not alone, I guess is message.
That's what I found with the angel numbers too. To me, that's one of the most lighthearted and easy ways to be reminded that my higher self or spirit or my guides are with me. It's you can take it as deep as you want, but you can also, just if you're busy and you don't have time to Google the esoteric meaning of the number 777, like, don't worry about it. It's just like I said, a little wink and a nod from your guides to say, hey, hi.
What's up? We are here.
Yes, and it's really sweet, and it's really sweet, and it's easy. That's one of the things too that I like about working with with spirit animals is a lot of times you'll see an animal and it's just a really warm, sweet, fast little connection with the dog in the park. And it doesn't have to be big and deep and meaningful and mind-blowing. It can just be the shared moment with you and the squirrel that you were feeding in the park the other day. It's to me a lot of these interactions. We sometimes get well, speaking for myself, sometimes you can get really bogged down and have this very heavy expectation that every interaction with spirit is going to be big time stuff and like tablets from the mountain level stuff. And sometimes it's just, like it's like
Yeah.
any other relationship. Sometimes it's just a hello. Sometimes it's just a hug. Sometimes it's just a a reassuring smile. And it's nice to be able to go as take it as lightly as you need to on any given day, and not feel the pressure to look up the meaning of every spiritual interaction, because that takes a lot of the joy and the fun out of it. Just
Yeah.
it can be really light. That
Source is
said,
always talking.
oh, go ahead.
I mean, just as no, Source is always talking to us. Source is always connecting with us. The feelings when we feel something really deep. Sometimes you know how they say, well, those 3 chords can make you cry. Isn't that a song? I feel like, yeah. Or there's certain interactions. Like, for example, yesterday I had a video up on my IGTV talking about Palo Santo and how we are harvesting these trees. And for a moment, I got really, like, I wanted to cry, not out of sadness per se, but like out of a potential change that we can do as humans. And when you feel something so deeply, that is Source connecting with your soul, or your higher self telling you, hey, this is a feeling that is correct. This is intense, and this is your path. Like, this is what you're supposed to be talking about. Like, this represents your best self or your highest self, which also represents Source, right? So while we talk about angel numbers and spirit animals, and at some point we're going to talk about crystals and everything, we really have to pay attention to our own feelings, because that is the number one way that we connect, and we have that immediate feedback of, this is, I don't want to use the label good or bad, but this is right. Like, this is what is bringing our vibration up higher. Sometimes we see that animal, and it just makes us like, oh my God, that dog. And you start thinking about other things, and it feels right, or how you can help them. So pay attention also to your feelings, because that is the number one way to know if you are representing who you are at your highest level. And make sure that those feelings are based on love and not fear.
There
Because
is
yeah,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. Go ahead.
There's someone that there's an account that I follow on Insta. It's Yemunya. It's YEMOONYAH. She was just talking about this. There are lots of different senses. Clairsentience is clear feeling. So what Michelle is talking about, and what Yemunya, follow her, she's amazing, is talking about on her Insta post, is the sense of feeling things and knowing. And I think that actually ties really well into the question that we broached at the beginning of our podcast today. How do you know that this is not just some insane coincidence, or you being a little too woo-woo? It's that feeling. It's that knowing. It is, and your feelings and your higher sense of self knowing what is, a lot of times has similar sensations or similar feelings. Really, it's a feeling, but that feeling is a knowing, and trusting that, and being brave enough to trust that, because we have all been conditioned by various cultures, because of our gender, because of our upbringing, because of our religious background, not to trust ourselves, not to trust our sense of intuition, not to trust that we actually all have these abilities within us and above us and around us. Feeling into these questions and feeling into where you're being led is
Yep.
such a huge component of our spiritual paths. It's there's no way to get around your sense of feeling your way through this and using that as your guide.
Yep, absolutely. And make sure when you do ask that question, like, is this feeling authentic? Ask, is it coming from a place of love or a place of fear? There's, as a lot of you know, there's a lot of things going on back home. And instead of coming from a perspective of, I love my brothers and sisters, my human brothers and sisters enough, I love them, I'm going to fight for them. There is a sense of, I fear of this is going to change because this is how I grew up. My fear as things are going to change. And then there are decisions that are happening coming from this place of fear. And unfortunately, it's causing a lot of turmoil, I guess is the word that I want to use.
Yeah.
So just be mindful of when you do, and we're going to get into this more, I promise, when you ask questions for spirit or when you ask questions for source, that your questions are, you're basing your questions on a foundation of love. Ask really, like, remove the layers. Like, where is this question coming from? Is it because I'm afraid I'm going to lose something? I'm afraid it's going to be to my detriment. I'm afraid of change. Or is it because you love yourself enough or you love those around you enough that you're able to accept this change? So before we get any heavier, because I feel like we're getting really, really heavy into this feelings.
It goes deep. It goes deep fast. It goes deep fast, people.
It does. It does. And I'm actually listening to Conversations with God again on audiobook. So a lot of the stuff that I missed the first 4 times of hearing the book is coming up again. And reading books or books that come your way is an actual also messages that are coming for you.
Yes.
So,
oh my God, I'm so glad you brought that up.
We didn't transition.
Awesome.
Yes. Yes, you have, often in life, things are going to be presented to you. It is your spirit or your soul or whatever you want to call it, calling these items or circumstances into your space because your soul or your higher self thinks you are ready or you are needing to hear that information. And all of these times, this information comes via books and sometimes movies. And I don't know if you want to talk more about books because you are more of a reader than I am. I'm more of an audio person. Audiobooks are right.
I actually was just about to whip out the book that I finished recently. So there's a used. I know. There's a used bookstore in town, and I just got this book, Shamanic Wisdom Keepers: Shamanism in the Modern World, and finished it in about 2 days. It's a beautiful book. I like. I'm actually surprised I'm not sleeping with it under my pillow, but it was, like to wander into this bookstore. Just, again, I'm an avid reader anyway, so it's not unusual for me to just sort of accumulate reading material. But of all the books that would be there, like, and it was just full of really beautiful and helpful and incredible information, a lot of which resonated. And it's interesting, of course, that Michelle, well, not interesting, there are no coincidences, but there are things that Michelle and I have talked about, sort of big ticket things that we've planned either for ourselves or as friends or as spiritual sisters. And and there were a lot of things that came up in this book that reminded me of my friendship with her, and our path and our growth together. And it reinforced kind of where we are now. And moving away from Michelle about 6 months ago was really difficult, but our relationship has grown since that time in ways that I actually would never have expected, but really love. So it's this sense of, again, trusting the call to explore something you may not have explored before, trusting your gut to go into the used bookstore and pick up this particular book on any given day, even if for no other reason than to just heed the call of your own voice over anyone else's. And just so we're all on the same page, disclaimer, we're not talking about following your ego. If you're heeding the call that says, I was going to say shank a bitch, but that's not that's not your highest self leading you.
No.
If in fact, I actually I don't love exercise. I like walking and sort of being outside, and I do like hiking, but I'm not much of a exerciser. So a week or two ago, I was conversing with spirit. And so one of the ways that I connect is actual conversations. They happen a lot in the car or in the bathtub, and I'm able to connect, and it's sort of I get these sort of clairaudient responses. Clairaudient means that you hear things, so it's not really a voice. It's more like these messages that just, and I hear them, but they're in my mind. So anyway, and spirit told me I need to take up running, and I was like, no. Like, I know that if spirit had said, Rachel, you are on the right track, keep overeating chocolate and stay on the couch, and I'd be like, yes. And
Do it.
that is not, again, I just by way of a disclaimer, we all know when it's our ego leading us, and we all know when our spirit is saying, Rachel, sweetheart, I love you so much. Get your butt off the couch and get your heart rate up. I was like, all right.
Especially it's when it's for our own good. Like, we have the ability to know when it's for our own good. You know, it's sitting on the couch eating chocolate all day and watching Netflix until your eyeballs pop out is not good, right? And sometimes you need that little
This is
reminder.
getting too personal. It's too personal now. Stop.
I feel sad. But sometimes you know that that's not, we know that's not the answer. And sometimes spirit or our higher selves needs to kind of not just say, hey, maybe we should take up a sport like running. Or I recently, a few months ago, started Dragon Boat. And that's because enough people kept hounding me about it, where I'm like, yeah, that does sound interesting, but I'm so scared. And that was my fear. I'm so scared. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm so scared I'm going to tire out in the boat. I'm so scared to let the team down. And at some point I said, no, you love yourself enough where you're going to try something new. You love yourself enough where you're going to trust your body, because that's the other thing we've learned for a really long time, not to trust our bodies, to try something new. And I love dragon boating. I love the sport and everything, but these are little tiny messages and it's changed me because I met a group of amazing women that I otherwise would have never had the opportunity to run into them ever. And there is a Reiki master in there. There's somebody else that has done like silent meditation retreats. I'm like, where have you been hiding?
On the dragon boat.
So
they were hiding on the dragon boat.
They're out in the mangroves, and I'm here in my little work studio, so listen. Yes, like Rachel said, listen to the messages and listen. Sometimes those conversations that we have in our heads is conversations with our higher self, but again, you have to be able to discern what is my ego.
Yeah,
so we're not going to go shanking other people.
I'm sorry, that's
I
ego.
know.
Ego talking.
right? Or, listen to the conversation and see where the message is coming from. Another way that we connect a lot is via dreams.
Yeah.
Dreams can be very prophetic. My family is known for having dreams. We've dreamt things, and we've spoken about it before, where we dream things before they're happening. And sometimes via dreams, we get a lot of messages. My mom dreams a lot with her mother when it comes to important messages or things that she needs to get done, or things that she should reconsider doing differently. So pay attention to the symbols within your dreams as well.
Okay.
And Rachel might do better with the animals, for example, dreaming of a certain animal. I've dreamt of alligators and crocodiles a lot.
Okay.
So
Well, but it
if you
depends. I
can,
mean, like again, and this is a whole not this is a whole nother episode. But in the context of the appearance of any guide, what like what's happening around it? Were you like, I actually picture you like kind of riding them like they're water
oh
skis and
God, I
like
wish.
harness, but or were you scared? Were they off in the distance and you were sort of observing them, sunning them? But anyway, that's where. Yeah, that's other.
That's
I'm getting.
that's episode 8.
I get too
Episode
excited.
8.
um,
Episode 8.
but
Yes, they are. Wait. Uh-huh.
I find it interesting because dreaming in that way is not a way that I've ever connected with spirit. So do you like before you go to bed, do you sit down and say, "Hey, I'm hoping to get some guidance here"? Does it just come as a sort of dream out of the blue? Like how does that work for you?
It really depends. I know there are more people who are more likely to have messages in the dreams than others. For those of you that are interested in dreaming, I do recommend placing a large-ish or as large of an amethyst next to your bedside, or if it's a small enough piece, in your pillowcase. And what that does, it kind of opens your crown chakra and your third eye, and it gives you the ability to almost like use your intuition while you're sleeping. When you're sleeping, and this is my beliefs, everybody thinks differently. When you're sleeping, I do feel that your actual soul, or your spirit, is able to leave your body, and you are able to visit different planes or different dimensions. And sometimes we're able to tap into things that are yet to happen, are going to happen, or could potentially happen. And then and of course, our physical bodies can't translate a lot of that information. So it comes out as symbols or subtle messages. I mean, I've dreamt of boyfriends cheating on me. And sometimes it's stuff that we already know in our waking, but at night our brain is unfiltered and we're able to see a lot of that information, right? Or try to translate it as best as it can. And in the dream, it was me standing almost like in this really wide staircase, and like this flood of water was just like coming in and rushing and taking over me. And all of a sudden I woke up and I'm like, what? That's so weird. I looked it up, and long story short, the person was cheating on me. And I called him out on it. And he's like, well, yeah, I'm sorry. It was a sorority girl or some weird thing. Anyway, irrelevant. There's messages that do come up in your dreams. Some people are more prone to it than others. Other people astral travel. So they physically leave their body and they're still able to see within their mind's eye where they're going. My mom could do that for
So
a long
cool.
time.
So cool.
And she had no idea what it meant. Like, my mom has so much ability, and I feel like she just limits herself, that I just want to shake her and say, you know what you could do? That's amazing. People like train for years to do what you can do by just going to sleep. So yes, I do believe that there are certain symbols or things that are that we see in our dreams that are able to translate into connecting with spirit. And sometimes spirit does come and gives us messages like, just here it is, like, don't do this, or this is what you're supposed to be doing, or you're on the right track, or whatever the message that you need to
Yeah.
hear, or you need to soften up, you need to lighten up, you need to get whatever the message is. I get a lot of messages in dreams. And sometimes it is exhausting. So for those of you who do wake up absolutely exhausted because you feel like you've been running all night, if you put a grounding stone next to your bed in connection with the amethyst, so like obsidian or black tourmaline or smoky quartz is my favorite, it keeps your body physically grounded on this earthly plane while still be able to receive the messages and the connection, if that makes
Cool.
sense. Yeah. So
Okay.
dreams is a way that many people get
Okay.
their emails from source.
Emails. Well, let's take a quick break here. We'll see you guys back in just a few minutes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Hi everyone, welcome back. Wake up, we're not dreaming anymore. We are talking about connecting with spirit here on episode 7 of the Spilling the Tea Leaves podcast. Yay, math. We chatted a bit about connecting through dreams. We chatted a bit about connecting through clairaudience and clair feeling, where you are trusting your gut, you are relying on your higher self to guide you to the places, to the people, to the things that might open up your spiritual experience a little bit. But sometimes you just really need to talk to spirit and you need an answer. You have questions, you need guidance, you just feel disconnected or are going through something and you need to connect. I find that spirit is always there for me. The answer is not always what I would love to hear, but 100% of the time when I sit down and ask for help or ask for connection, I find it. Is that your experience as well, or do you feel like sometimes it's just like you're not matching up?
No, when I ask spirit for a question, trust that it's coming. And like you said, sometimes it's not always what I want to hear or what I have planned in my head for the answer to be. But I do ask it, and before we were talking about passively connecting, and during the break I was telling Rachel, like, we are connecting. We are aggressively connecting to spirits. I
You
need
will
an
answer
answer.
my text.
You will answer my question and you will tell me what is going to happen. And there are several ways to do this. One way that I do this, and anybody can do this, you can do this right now if you choose to, is asking a very specific question. You have to be specific.
Okay.
And this ties into a lot of the manifestation or manifestation books that are there's like a billion of them out there, and there's a reason for that. But when I ask a question and I want a specific answer, I give it a time. So, for example, with a very clear answer. For example, I was having an issue last year, and I live in the middle of the desert. And I'm like, I need clear yes or no. Like, just give it to me. And I asked out loud, I said, I need to know whether I continue forward with this or just step back. If I am supposed to continue forward, I want to show me a rainbow in the next 5 minutes. If I'm supposed to continue forward in this very specific problem that I mentioned, I want to see a rainbow in the next 5 minutes. And in my head, I'm like, there's no way I'm going to see a rainbow in the middle of the desert, in the middle of the highway. So there's like ocean of cars as far as the eye can see. There's no truck with a rainbow. Like, show me a rainbow in 5 minutes. I you not, within 30 seconds, Rachel sends me a message, and it was just a series of rainbow emojis. So I'm like, okay, got it.
You're like,
thank you.
I'm done.
I'm done. I'm not going to ask again. And I said, thank you for the message. I received it loud and clear. I will continue forward. So when you ask your question, sometimes people see show me a purple monkey. or show me a purple card, or just be as specific as possible. And that is a way that you can connect and see or visually see the answer to your question. And it always works. And if 5 minutes is too short of time for you, I want to see it in 24 hours or in the next 3, whatever. You pick your timeline, but pay attention and
Yes.
heed the answer, right? Like if that's not the answer that I wanted, I could have ignored your rainbow emojis and said, well, that's not a real rainbow. That's that's not a rainbow in the sky. Just listen. You listen to your answer. When you ask a question, you got to pay attention for the answer.
Yeah.
What's your quick way? Like, how do you connect or aggressively ask for
Aggressively. We chatted earlier about how fairly recently I received a message from Spirit to take up running. And I've tried it in the past. I didn't like it. I've gotten shin splints. Again, I'm much more of a yoga slow burn kind of person. So I was I when I got this message from Spirit, I had a lot of resistance coming up. It's just like, I mean, if Spirit had told me to open a spirit animal zoo on the moon, that to me would be more achievable than putting some shoes on and going for a run around the block. So I whipped out my go-to quick answer. Let's talk about this right now. Thing, which is my tarot deck. I have several different ones. There's one that I am particularly attached to, which, lol, no surprise, is full of animals. So it's very, very traditionally tarot in that all this, and we'll chat about tarot again sometime. So if you're not familiar, just know that this particular deck is pretty traditional, except that instead of having visual traditional imagery, it's all animal imagery. So I said,
like an oracle deck?
No, but it is actually a tarot deck. So you have the Fool, the Magician. You have all your major arcana, your minor arcana, the court cards, which are the pages, the knights, the queens, and the kings. But they're all, so like the Queen of Cups, for instance, is a moose and she's in the water. The Death card is a California condor just standing on his carcass, nomming away. Yes, it's anyway. It's
It.
It is so cool. So I said, listen, Spirit, I higher self, yes. Help me with this running thing. I'm feeling a lot of resistance. This is really weird. I'm weirded out. I drew one card. Do you know what the card was? It was the Roadrunner. Like, people, you can't make this stuff up. So in this particular deck, the Roadrunner is the Page of Swords. So, and there's a lot of information for me to dive into, not just with this particular animal, with whom I actually feel close, because I lived, when I lived in the United States as an adult, it was in Arizona, so there were roadrunners about. So, but anyway, so there's a lot to dive into, intuitively, whether it's the imagery or the actual, like the suit and the court card of the tarot deck. But anyway, suffice it to say that for me, when I need something, and it's also because I'm visual. Yeah, I get a lot of my spiritual back and forth in this sort of clairaudient, these conversational kind of situations, but I'm also very observant and very visually oriented. So for me, keeping an eye, I mean, I see all the critters. If there's a bug somewhere, I'll see it. And then tarot for me is so visually intuitive that I find it just really beautiful and easy to connect with, and there's so many decks out there. You can find some that are, the Halloween tarot and the mystical bunny tarot. I mean, like there's just so much there's so many and so many different oracle decks as well. If tarot isn't, are you going to sneeze? What is happening? Are you
No, sorry, I don't have my glasses on, and I'm looking for a very. Now that you've mentioned the types of decks, that yes, sorry. If you guys are
are you
listening to us, it
possessed?
looks like yes, it does look. I'm squinting my eyes because I don't have my glasses on. I'm very blind, like a bat. I am blind. I cannot see within like 2 inches of my face. But Rachel was mentioning that there, as a little side talk, there are different types of oracle and tarot decks. So depending on where you are on your journey and how comfortable you are, because tarot decks and oracle cards do come with a lot of history, not so good one, not such a good history. There's a lot of fear around tarot cards. So if you want to ease into it and just kind of play with the cards, no attachment, they are very, I mean, Lisa Frank has a tarot deck. So it's just like, which I'm trying to get. Which is very colorful and soft, and teddy bears and ponies. Doreen Virtue, when she was making oracle cards and tarot cards, had angel cards that were very colorful and just soft. And then you can start getting, as you're progressing on your path, you can start exploring other decks and start going into the traditional decks like the
The Rider-Waite.
Rider-Waite. Yeah, Rider-Waite. That I have a deck, which is what I was looking for when I got called out for squinting, which is the Deviant. I'm going to put my glasses on because I see it and I can get it. Deviant Moon Tarot cards.
Cool.
And it is one of the darkest decks that I've seen, but I resonate with it so well. I mean, it's just about death and ugly imagery, but it works for me, and it goes into a little bit of my shadow side.
Yes.
So yeah, there are, like Rachel resonates with animals. There are decks about animals. I have tons of crystal decks because I resonate with crystal so well. So if you are willing to explore this avenue of connecting with spirit via cards, there are a lot of options, a lot of safe options for you that you can try, and then as you progress and you start collecting, because at some point you will start collecting these
Yes,
cards,
just disclaimer.
get
Like you'll get addicted and suddenly you'll find yourself just sort of amassing oracle decks. Like
yeah,
I need
you can
another
never
one.
get all of them. You need all of them. And there's I think Hay House is hayhouse.com.
Yes.
They every like 3 or 4 months have sales on decks with free shipping, and it's like $5 a deck.
What?
I know.
I was
Yeah.
actually
Have I never told you that?
no, well, and I was on the App Store yesterday. So, so for those of you who are Apple people, and I presumably this would be the same for Android folks as well, but Hay House has numerous. So, like Colette Baron Reed has this gorgeous animal oracle deck. Anyway, birthday's coming up, y'all. It's in June. And I really, this there's this deck that I really want, and it was interesting to me because I found an app, and I think it's like $4, like $4 American for the actual app, but you get access to all the cards and you can do all sorts of different spreads. And so that's a good option too, especially if you're limited on space or are not able to keep some of these things in your house because it's not a welcoming, safe space for you. There are a lot of options, divinatory options now. God bless technology, man, because like you can actually do a lot of this cool stuff with your phone, and it makes it safer and discreet, and is a really easy option if you are looking for other avenues to kind of explore some of these connection modes.
Yep, absolutely. What's another way that you used to connect?
Automatic writing. It's a little weird. It's a little,
Say that.
yeah, no, it's sometimes, especially if it's a bigger question. So like with tarot, at least for me, tarot and oracle cards, I get really, yeah, sometimes I'll do a bigger spread and then there are cards all over the place and my cats are walking on them. It's great. But for the most part, those are more like sound bites is the word I want to use, but you get these quick little intuitive snippets, these little visuals, and then you can maybe Google if you want to read the book. Okay, well, this is the Knight of Beans, and yeah, so fine. night of beans. I'm going to make my own tarot deck. We're having a suit of beans.
Oh my God. This,
And,
yes, I think Queen of
however, sometimes I have bigger, again, not that you can't address bigger questions in other ways, but for me, when I sit down and I just empty, I just empty. And I maybe write the question in my notebook and I just start writing. And sometimes it will be a few lines, sometimes it'll be a few words, sometimes it's pages and pages and pages of information. And it's funny because my writing even changes when I do it. I pride myself on having very nice handwriting, and my writing gets messy. And I think a lot of that is just the speed, because like I'm trying to write so quickly, and it's like spelling goes out the window, which Virgo rising, my God, I'm like, I can't believe this doesn't have a comma. Um, it's it's very it just, like, sometimes it just pours out of me, and I find it a very, again, if you're looking for something concrete, something that you can go back to and say, yeah, I remember, yes, and like, so that's one nice thing too. Like, yeah, I take pictures of a lot of my tarot card pulls and I write down notes and things, but with my automatic writing too, I find it comforting. It's almost like a grimoire or a notebook that witches keep, where you can go back and say, yes, this is what I was thinking on that day with this question, and you can sort of revisit it in that way, which I like. Do you find that you keep notes when you're connecting, or?
I haven't. So I used to do a lot of automatic writing, and the word empty is kind of almost perfect way to describe it, where it's just like this, like you're funneling all this information through, and all you have to do is put your pen to the paper,
Yep.
and you're just going to start on your own, writing the question on top. I haven't done it in a long time, and actually you talking about it makes me feel like I need to do it, or I have a need to empty out. If that makes sounds weird. Um, but yeah, sometimes when I was doing it almost daily. I would go back and read my notes, and I'm like, I don't remember saying that, but that's a great perspective, or that's such a, I don't remember putting that thought into my head for it to come out, almost, where it's just going so fast sometimes that you're not registering what you're saying. So you do have to go back
Yep.
and read. And sometimes if you want to connect with your guides, sometimes if you we should probably do a whole episode on connecting with your spirit guides, as I am writing
Yes.
notes. And how do you connect with your spirit guides, not with source or your higher self, but how do you connect with spirit guides? Sometimes they offer messages to us as well, and they have very specific roles or very specific uh, needs or very specific areas in your life, and messages that filter through sometimes is, I know, is it's not my brain writing, or my brain writing what I'm writing, but spirit guide, or one of my spirit guides writing through me. A lot of times it's Charlie. Charlie likes to take the leadership role. So yeah, automatic writing works. There are tons of books on this. If you are one person that doesn't feel comfortable or thinks that you're doing it wrong, there are tons of books. There's tons of information online that you can get, as well as to how it's happening, what to write, how to get in the right mindset. One thing that I want to make sure I get in before we end this is shut the noise off.
Yeah.
Just close the door. I know sometimes it's hard to get away from everything and everybody. Close the door, turn off the phone. I will allow you some light music, but if you don't need it, don't turn it on, and just sit in silence. We are constantly bombarded with noise and outside stimuli. We have emails, we have Facebook and every social media, and it's just really hard to give our brain that minute of silence so that we're able to hear the
Yeah.
messages. And this
It
is something that I do take on for myself. I do this all the time. Sometimes I can't disconnect. but we need to make sure that we give ourselves that quiet space.
One of the most powerful ways that I'm able to connect, and it takes a lot of discipline because like Michelle said, it's like I love sitting there and doing a tarot spread and then Googling like, oh my God, Biddy Tarot. Like, okay, Google Biddy. She knows everything. So then I need to look up the
Love
meaning of
Biddy.
everything. Right. And that is so helpful. I mean, I love to research. I love to learn. I love to read. We chatted about that. But some of the most intense connections I have made, and if I'm doing, so for instance, I have a friend who has asked me to help her through some stuff, and I have asked to receive some messages for her. I actually have to sit in a ball. Like, it's the most sensory deprivation you can get without going into a sensory deprivation tank. I'm full fetal position. Most of the time I actually plug my ears, or I have them kind of like my head's between my knees in like plane crash position so that I'm blocking the sound. And what I'll do then is as I'm receiving, then I'll kind of come out of that and then scribble my notes down and then go right back in. And it's almost like it's an incubation almost. Like you have to have, and yeah, trust me, discipline's not fun. Nobody wants to like, but it's hard. But I just want to be able to be authentic in saying that, like, yeah, I don't do this every day. I wish I did. That's just
God,
not
yeah.
right. I mean, like, I got enough pressure on me, like, but like the most intense connections that I have, and the most intense, and especially if I'm doing and I read tarot for other people. It's different when I'm sitting with someone. It's I'm not going to go into a ball in that context. But when I'm with myself and I'm trying to really commune and connect, it is very much like go physically as into myself as I can.
You're going
Because
inward,
yeah, no,
literally.
yes.
You are going inward. You're looking for insights.
Yes, insight. And it's strange because there is this sense of going outward and looking for answers from without. And yes, but I mean, Michelle and I both, I mean, crystals, animals, angel numbers. Yes, this stuff is around us.
Yeah.
However, you have to be able to balance that and know when you need to go inward. And that comes back to what we've been talking about, trusting yourself and knowing that these messages are it's like a pool and it's already there for you. You just have to dive in, and you have to have the trust and willingness and openness to, and it's funny, the more inward you go, the more you expand. It's pretty wild. I mean,
Yeah. One of the things I just heard while I was driving the car is not in my head on the actual audiobook was when you gain insight, when you go in, you don't go without. So going in and gaining your answers from within and trusting yourself, you will never do without. And there's more context to that, but it just generally means that we're always looking for answers elsewhere, somebody else to give us the answers. We're always going outside, and then we are almost starving ourselves because the answers are always there. We already intuitively know what is it that we need. We always intuitively know what to do next. And we just need to give ourselves that moment of quiet, of meditation. That's why meditation is so huge too. It's that moment of peace in your head. And meditation doesn't always have to do with you sitting in lotus pose, closing your eyes and chanting something. It could just be you sitting somewhere, turning off the phone, turning off the TV, and just being quiet. And just being quiet.
yeah.
I mean, yeah. Before we go, because we're almost out of time,
Yes.
how do we talk for almost an hour? I don't
I
get
don't
it.
know. We could keep going.
I know, this is like forever. One of the things that I also wanted to mention, if you are out and about in your day and you are looking outside for answers, sometimes messages come through objects as well. One
Okay.
of the big things, because I am the crystal lady, sometimes when we see a crystal being repeated, when we're researching crystals, sometimes a crystal comes to you. There's people that have dug up crystals on their potted plants. Sometimes you're gifted a crystal. Usually that crystal comes into your life for a very specific reason or something that you're needing to focus on. So when you do receive a crystal or a stone, research it. Usually it has to do with like your heart chakra or needing abundance or trying to open your third eye. So when you receive it and you look up the message, it usually goes well with what you are needing at that point in your life. And once you know, then you can do your homework. Then you can see how you can improve that space or that area in your life. Don't just rely on that one tool. There are hundreds of tools available to you in order for you to improve the space that you're in.
Yeah. Let's raise those vibes.
That's all we want. We just want all you guys to be talking to yourselves to your
We mean that in a totally non-crazy way. Like,
yes, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, anything else that you want to add before we say goodbye?
No, I think that was pretty robust, but I actually would love to just kind of pick up right here next week and talk about connecting, not just connecting with our guides, but then also, I guess, meeting them. Like, who are your guides? How do you connect? How do you tap in a, because that's sort of a more specific connection. And like you were saying, different, at least the way that it's worked for both Michelle and me, is different guides come at different times. They have different messages for us, different things that they offer us. So I think, again, that's kind of a perfect place to leave it and a perfect place to pick up next time for episode 8.
Yes, thank you, Rachel. Episode 8, so we don't get confused.
Writing it down.
Well, and I guess that's it then. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Please make sure that you are following us on Twitter at Spilling Leaves, and you are following us on Facebook at Spilling the Tea Leaves, or facebook.com/Spilling the Tea Leaves. Or you can find all our links at our website, spillingthetealeaves.com. You can also email us at spillingthetealeaves@gmail.com. And you can also find our YouTube channel. Just YouTube search us, Spilling the Tea Leaves. Again, my name is Michelle. You can find me at rememberlovehealing.com, and you could also find me on Instagram at rememberlove.
Cool. I'm Rachel. I'm an animal intuitive. You can find me at Cottage on Wolf Lane on Instagram, and send me pictures of all the bugs you come across. I love that stuff.
Yes. And make sure that you're sharing us. We would love to hear comments or feedback. Wherever you listen to your favorite podcast as well, you can catch us there, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and a bunch of other ones. Wherever you listen to your podcast, you can listen to us. Share us, leave us a comment, and subscribe. That's it for episode 7. We will see you episode 8, which will be connecting with your spirit guides.
Cool.
We'll
Yeah,
hope to
dig
see
it.
you soon.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah? Cool. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.